Images of outsiders arriving by sea dig into something quite deep and sometimes quite dark in the English imagination. Older generations were brought up with a popular history that was really all about invasions and stopping them, or failing to stop them. Jutes and Vikings, Saxons, Danes, Normans. The Normans were a particular pain in the bottom with their silly foreign language and their pointy metal hats and their boring square castles. And then the Spanish and Francis Drake fiddling with his bowls, that's bowls with a W, and sea fortresses against the French, and concrete pillboxes and tank traps and barbed wire against the Germans, and Captain Mannering and Sergeant Wilson and the rest of them fixing bayonets in Walmington-on-Sea. It all just means that for millions of naturally conservative British people, they are particularly sensitive to boats, beaches, and words like invasion. The Channel boats subject is going to be a really big issue between the parties from now until the general election, and it already generates far more heat than light. The Immigration Minister, Robert Jenrick, a mild-mannered lawyer married to the child of Holocaust survivors who sits for the quiet market town of Newark, yesterday made one of the most aggressively hard-edged speeches on immigration any serving minister has ever made. Because of climate change, state failure and war, he said, there were 100 million people displaced globally, many of whom wanted to come here. The English Channel had once been a silver sea, but it was now a gateway for illegal migration. The number of people willing and able to reach the United Kingdom was now, he said, astronomical and far beyond what this country could accept. Excessive, uncontrolled migration threatens to cannibalise the compassion that marks out the British people, he said. Migrants had different values. They settled in hyper-diverse areas, whatever those are, and they expected to be looked after by the state. So-called asylum seekers were effectively asylum shoppers who simply thought the UK was a better place to make a claim and build a future than was France. The Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, was asked about this on LBC this morning.
I think that the people coming here illegally do possess values which are at odds with our country. We are seeing heightened levels of criminality when related to the people who've come on boats, related to drug dealing, exploitation, prostitution. There are real challenges which go beyond the migration issue.
Wow. A very few facts. According to official figures, for every recorded illegal migrant in 2022, about 19 people migrated here legally. Net migration of 500,000 in the year ending June 2022. For the last year we've got figures for, which is 2019, asylum seekers made up only around 5% of immigrants. When the Migration Advisory Committee reviewed the situation in 2018, admittedly some years ago, they found that immigration had little or no impact on the employment of existing workers. And so what happens to people coming off the boats if they haven't been put into detention centres or if they escape from them? Some, no doubt, fall into crime, but there is little hard evidence about that. It's anecdotal and it's emotive. Mr. Jenrick talked about migrants kicking open the doors of houses in Dover, entering homes and being found in people's kitchens. Now, those things happen, I'm sure, very occasionally, but Oxford University's Migration Observatory found in a report published 5 years ago there was no evidence to suggest increased immigration to the UK was increasing crime rates, either at a local or national level. To be fair, there is very little evidence of anything in this area because these are desperate people outside the normal employment world where statistics get collected. But you will meet them if you get your car cleaned in a particular garage forecourt, or you regularly have your nails painted pink, I don't, or if you hang around building sites. Mr. Jenrick argued that recent migrants have different values from the rest of us. Well, yes, they seem to be hard-working, and many are religious, so that's true. Also, according to the Institute for Public Policy Research, migrants are generally optimistic about Britain. So maybe it's doubly true. Now look, I've got no doubt that the scale of migration recently across the Channel has to be stopped, not least because of the huge involvement of criminal gangs and the risk to life and limb. Because of things happening in the world very far from Britain, I agree that the number of people who want to come here is just going to keep growing and growing, and we have to decide as a country how many people we can accommodate and who they should be. But we shouldn't forget that we are also a country in many ways built on migration. Let us not panic. Let us not scare ourselves.